This training can also include certification if they're going to be spraying chemicals, or if they're going to be using some other agricultural technology that required certification. It could include that. You could require that certification before they come if you needed to, and that would help minimize your training exposure. But just be clear on what kind of training, who's going to offer the training, and that it's done in a timely manner so that your workers are protected. And we talked some about safe working conditions, but that should be for you, your family, and for any employees you hire. Be on the lookout for unsafe areas of your farm, ways you do things. I tell you, when I think back over the years, some of the ways we've done things, I just shake my head in wonderment that we made it through all that, and we're still in one piece pretty much. We'll go on to the next slide, please, Colette, and I'll wind her up in just a minute here. This slide goes on to beyond the hiring, beyond the compensation and fringe benefits and the business management relationship, but this is more the personal management relationship of once you get an employee you want that you've invested in, you've trained, you build confidence in this employee, you want to keep that employee. And this is where the management is much more than just the money you're paying the employee. I have a saying that your best employee is your current one, and sometimes that's hard to realize when you're unsatisfied with the performance of an employee. But the cost of dismissing an employee and then hiring another one and training that one to replace the one you just had, possible problems from replacing an employee, it's significant. It's something to consider. And then you might end up with a person that's just as bad or worse than the one you just had. So focusing on positive employee relations with the person you have working for you, and this goes with family relations and family labor too, that you really believe in your employees, you really appreciate what they do, and give them enough responsibility and enough confidence in their jobs that they really feel like their work is an important contribution to your farm family business, regardless of what their work is. I always like a team approach, because if we're all working together on a team, there's not the big honcho and then this great big long list and then the one recent hire is at the very bottom of the list, rather than everyone's on the same line with the same, working towards the same goals that the farm family business has. Opportunity for that person to advance. At least they feel like there's an opportunity for them to advance into other jobs on the farm as they learn skills or encourage themselves to improve themselves. That it feels like they're not in a dead-end job in that case. And then supervision of your supervision of that employee needs to be thorough so that they feel confident in understanding the tasks that they have, and that they feel like when they show initiative and really put out extra work, extra hard labor, or they're applying their intelligence to come up with new ways of doing things and better ways maybe than you've been operating in the past, that they're really recognized for that. Both, just a pat on the back goes a long ways, and a thank you and a recognition of their work. Of course, a raise goes a long ways too. Anyway, that's a summary of hiring a person, and a lot of it's common sense, a lot of it's legal, step by step, but it all adds up to a good experience if you follow those steps. And I think we're going to save questions until later now and move on. So, Colette?
Thank you, Ken. Our next presenter is Diane Green. She's going to be talking about interns, apprentices, and volunteers on the farm. Diane,
Am I going to have the mouse?
Yes, you are. Okay. You can click and take the mouse at any time. Thank you, Diane.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope the sun's shining where you are. I just saw the sun came out about 15 minutes ago, and I swear it's the first time I've seen it in 6 weeks, so I think I recognize it, but we still have snow. It's still happening, but now it's time to start thinking about the farming season, and when we're thinking about the farming season, a big part of that is looking at our interns, apprentices, and volunteers. Oh, is this poll something you wanted to do now before we get started?
I didn't know where you wanted the poll. You had emailed me this, and so I put it at the beginning of your presentation.
Well, we know no one has hired employees.
Right.
So let's find out if we have if it's family, volunteers, apprentice, or interns. It would be nice to see if anybody has any of those. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There it is. So I've opened the poll. I'll give you some time to vote. Let's see, 29% have voted. Half of our participants, 3/4. I'll give it a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So 83% have family working on the farm. Interestingly enough, after a definition of hired employees, we have 17% with hired employees. No volunteers, apprentices, or interns.
Well, we had a couple more people come on, so that might have changed since you first did that. So I have the mouse again. Yeah. I like this. I wanted to start with this quote from Joel Salatin, and if you're not familiar with him, find his books and read them. They have some very good information. I've had the great opportunity to present at a few conferences where Joel was there and got to have conversations with him. And it's absolutely, this really holds true whether it's an employee or an apprentice. If you devote yourself to people, holding them in high esteem, farm labor can be a fairly easy problem to solve. But if you devote yourself to dogged independence, farm labor will be hard to come by. And really the whole thing is about respecting the people that come to spend time in your farm, feeding them, treating them fairly, and doing the best that we can with that. I got a little discombobulated because my cat just jumped up. One of the wonders of doing a webinar is having a cat jump up and sit on my paper. One of the things Ken talked about is having a clear job description and job requirements, and this really holds true with apprentices as well. You need to have things clearly outlined and defined so you know where you're going. And really when it comes down to it, no matter how much you love what you do on the farm, you can only be efficient accomplishing so much. I've found that no matter what, there's never enough hours in the day. I mean, we joke and say that when we became farmers it was so we could work just half days. That's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, but that's only half of 24 hours. But truly the best source of labor for the small acreage farm is utilizing your family, and really thinking about what those assets are. And when you're doing your go planning and going through the process of writing your farm plan, that's really an important part of that. Well, we have explored the apprentice and intern/volunteer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about all of those, but we've had 31 apprentices here at Green Tree Naturals over the years, and we started in 1998. Some of them have lived on the farm, some have earned college credits. We are accredited with University of Idaho and Washington State University. Some of them have gone on to be farmers, and some work in different aspects of agriculture. You can go on our website and learn more about how we lay out our apprenticeship program, and there's a lot of information on there, so I encourage you to use that. But I can tell you that since we started 16 years ago, things have changed and grown quite a bit over the years, and we've learned from our mistakes, thankfully, and we've learned quite a bit over the years. We usually have 2 to 3 interns on the farm, and that kind of varies depending on what's going on. But whether a person's hired as an employee or come to your farm as an apprentice or intern, it's really important that you're efficient with your labor use, and careful planning is going to save you time and thus saving you money, and how you can use those people productively on the farm. So really, whether it's hired apprentices or volunteers, you need to have everything ready for them to be there. And it can ease the load having an apprentice or an intern there. That's only if you have good apprentices. If they're not the right fit, it's not going to work out. And if you're just starting up on your farm, I don't really feel like apprenticeships are an appropriate place for you. You need to really work out the kinks of how things are working, and be able to adjust your workload as your farm expands, and that's really a crucial part of having apprentices. The apprentices and interns are really about offering hands-on experience, and whether you call it an apprenticeship or an internship or a mentorship, there are specific definitions, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But basically, you're entering into an agreement with this person to work on your farm for a certain period of time. And in exchange, you're going to provide training and experience for them. And hopefully, it's very much a symbiotic relationship, and it's beneficial to both of you. And that's only if your personalities work well together. I mean, there's a lot of things working there. If you're bringing in an apprentice from out of state or somewhere where you can't meet them, at least now we have Skype, so we do interview on Skype so we can see them and actually talk to them, or talk to them on the phone. We have an application process, and I'd be happy to share my application with you. If you email me, I can send you a copy of that. But in our application process, a part of that is very much we ask questions like, why do you want to come here, number one? What are you interested in learning? What are your goals after, if you apprentice with us, what do you plan on doing after this apprenticeship? We ask if they're going to be living on the farm. We ask if they've ever lived in a rural community, if they've done any camping, because our living situation is really hard shell camping. By that I mean we have a couple camp trailers, and they're hauling water, and they have kerosene, they're using an outhouse. It's not a situation for everyone. We ask in the application if they've ever worked in a garden or on a farm, and ask for details about that. And we ask them if they're interested in living on the farm, and what their expectations are of being here, and go through that process. We also ask for personal references, and I always follow up with those references and call. And even though we ask for references and we check references, we have had situations where we've had young people come here, and after, I mean, I'll give them a couple of weeks if it takes that long, and generally you can tell pretty quick. And we've asked some to leave. It kind of goes along that line. I told you I've fired customers, well, I've fired apprentices as well.